Hello and welcome to Understanding Post-Separation Abuse. This explainer is specifically for you, for women survivors of that hidden kind of emotional and psychological abuse. We're going to break down step by step how you can actually evidence coercive control right here in the UK. The goal is to turn your experience into something the legal system can finally understand and, more importantly, act on. Let's get into it. This is the big frustrating question, isn't it? When the abuse isn't just one single obvious event, but this long pattern of psychological control, it can feel absolutely impossible to explain. To you, it feels like this giant pile of mush in your brain, just 1,000 tiny cuts that are so hard to put into words for anyone else. And this, right here, is the absolute key. This is what's changed. The law in the UK now gets this. It understands that coercive control isn't about proving one single thing he did. It's about showing a whole pattern of behavior that was designed to control you, to isolate you, and to make you afraid. Okay, so to help you get that clarity, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the nature of this invisible pattern. Then we'll look at the law's exact definition. After that, we'll tackle the biggest hurdle, proving a serious effect. Then we'll get practical on building your case. And finally, we'll explore the actual legal pathways to protection. Right, let's start at the beginning, at a place that I know so many of you will recognize. That feeling of being completely overwhelmed, totally confused by just the sheer number of things that have happened. Things that, on their own, might seem small to an outsider. That feeling of it all being a big pile of mush? It's 100% valid. That's actually what makes this kind of abuse so damaging and so hard to see. But the good news, and it is good news, is that the law, specifically the Serious Crime Act of 2015, totally shifted the focus. It now recognizes that the real harm lies in the cumulative impact of all these acts together, in the pattern itself. Okay, so if the law gets it now, what does it actually say? How is coercive control officially defined? Let's look at the legal framework, because this is what gives your experience a name and a structure. So this is the official UK government definition. The words you really need to focus on here are pattern, harm, punish, or frighten. See, this isn't about a couple of bad arguments. It's about a consistent series of actions that are intended to make you feel powerless or scared. And this can be anything, from checking your phone and controlling money to constantly putting you down. Now, for this to be treated as a criminal offense, the Crown Prosecution Service has to prove these 4 things. First, the behavior was repeated or continuous. Second, you are personally connected. And yes, that includes ex-partners. Third, the behavior had a serious effect on you. And fourth, the abuser knew, or really should have known, the kind of impact it would have. All right, now out of those 4 points, that third one, proving a serious effect, that is often the most critical legal hurdle you have to clear. So what does that actually mean? What does it look like in the eyes of the law? Well, the law basically gives you 2 different ways to show this. The first one is pretty straightforward. The abuse caused you to fear that violence would be used against you on at least 2 separate occasions. But the second one is much broader, and it really captures that deep psychological impact. It caused you serious alarm or distress that had a substantial adverse effect on your daily life. So how do you make that substantial adverse effect real and tangible for a court? Well, you think about the actual real-world impacts. Did you have to stop seeing your friends or family? Did you have to change jobs? Have you installed security cameras at your home? Has your mental or physical health gotten worse? These are the concrete examples that a court is looking for. Okay, you've got the legal side down. Now let's get to the really empowering part. How do you actually take all of that big pile of mush in your head and build a case that proves the pattern? And this right here is the crucial mindset shift you need to make. You have to move from just telling the story of what you went through to presenting a timeline of documented events. It's that structure that gives your experience real weight and clarity in a legal setting. The beauty of this is that it's a step-by-step process. It's methodical, and that's what makes it so powerful. First, try to categorize the abuse. Was it financial, emotional, isolating? Then, for each category, make a timeline of specific things that happened. Make a note of the frequency. How often did this happen? And then, and this is key, for each incident, describe the impact it had on you. This is how you turn confusion into a clear, factual record. So what kind of proof are we talking about? Honestly, you might have more than you think. We're talking screenshots of those harassing texts, bank statements that show financial control, maybe photos of damage to your property, or even just a detailed diary. All of these things are listed by the Crown Prosecution Service as valid evidence. And please, please never forget this. Even if you don't have a screenshot or a photo for every single thing that happened, your detailed chronological statement to the police is an incredibly powerful piece of evidence all by itself. Your testimony matters. So you've started documenting, you're building your evidence. Now what? What can you actually do with it? What are your options for getting real legal protection? Basically, you've got two main routes you can take. The first is reporting the behavior to the police. This could lead to a criminal case and outcomes like a conviction or a restraining order. The other route is applying to the family court for an injunction, like a non-molestation order, which would legally prohibit the abuser from contacting or harming you. And importantly, these aren't mutually exclusive. You can pursue both. If you only take one single thing away from this explainer today, please let it be this. The legal system can feel so intimidating and confusing, but by understanding the rules and by structuring your own experience as evidence, you gain such a powerful voice. You are no longer just telling a story. You are presenting a case. So I want to leave you with a question. Think about it right now. What is one small thing, a text message you can save, a diary entry you can write about how you felt, a date you remember? What is just one thing you can document today? Starting small is how you begin to build that powerful pattern of evidence. Look, this kind of information is just so vital for survivors who feel completely lost and alone in the system. So if you can, please help us boost this education by sharing this explainer with someone who might need it and by subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.